I have worked for myself and almost exclusively worked from home for my entire adult life. So I have some thoughts and opinions on work from home setups. And my personal office desk setups have changed a lot over the years. And so I wanted to take a little trip down memory lane and have a look at all of the different workspace desk situations that I have had since graduating uni. I'm not counting the student desks. Hi, hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Hannah. If you are new here, I make thoughtful and conscious lifestyle videos about motherhood, creativity, community, and culture. And also, I love me some productivity and organization. So I graduated uni and then moved to London in 2014. So we're gonna start with my first situation in London all the way up until today. I've only lived in 3 places in London, but we've got 6 desk office setups to look at. I've got a criteria and we're going to be scoring and rating these bad boys based on this criteria, and then we will come to the end with our overall ranking. So I've got 4 different criteria. I'm going to rank each of these out of 10 for a total score out of 40. The first criteria is productivity. How easy was it for me to get work done in that space, in that environment? The second criteria is posture, because it's bad, guys. It's bad. And this is something in my mid-30s that is becoming increasingly important to me and probably should have been really important earlier. I'm still terrible at remembering to sit up properly or stand up every half an hour or an hour to, stretch my back out and whatnot. If anyone's got any tips and tricks on that works in a small flat with a small setup, which we'll get to at the end, let me know. So how good that setup is for my posture is the second criteria. Our third criteria is work-life balance. This is the endless conundrum of working from home, how your work and life tends to blend together because you're working in the same space that you're living in. So how did these different situations and setups allow me to have a healthy separation, healthy boundaries? And our fourth criteria, I'm just calling vibes. And this can be the aesthetics, like how nice it looked to my taste, how cool it looked, but also vibes in terms of when you exist in a space, there'll be little things that you really appreciate or little things that really get on your nerves. So that's kind of what I'm getting at with vibes, and we'll get into some of the details of vibes as we go through these different setups. So that's my criteria, but before we have a look at all of my old desk setups, I wanted to thank this video sponsor, Squarespace. So whether you're just starting out in the freelance world or you're a small business owner, Squarespace makes it super easy to create your own beautiful website, engage your audience, and sell anything from physical and digital products to courses and even your time, all in one place and all on your terms. I've been using Squarespace for years for my own personal and professional websites, and I absolutely love it. It's so intuitive and easy to use. I've got absolutely no website design experience, and I can still have a portfolio website that I'm really proud of and can signpost people to. Go and have a look, hannahwitton.com. Squarespace have loads of beautiful professional website templates. You just pick the one that suits your needs best, and then you can customize it with all of your own stuff. And you can add loads of different features depending on what your specific needs are. And all of the templates work seamlessly across multiple devices. Squarespace's Fluid Engine website design system is super intuitive to use. It literally allows you to drag and drop things around the page, meaning that anyone can get really creative designing your own website. If you have a shop or an online store for your business, then Squarespace Payments is the easiest way to manage payments. Onboarding is really fast and simple, and there's loads of different options for how your customers can pay. If you have more of a service-based business, then something like Squarespace Invoicing can really help you manage your clients, manage that workflow, and keep track of invoices. So if you're in need of a website for whatever reason, professional, personal, creative projects, then you can head to squarespace.com to start your free trial. And then when you're ready to launch into the world, you can go to squarespace.com/morehannah to get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Okie dokie, let's cast our minds back to 2014, 2015, when I was living in my first home in London. And if you haven't been following me for that entire time, you may be unaware that I lived in a warehouse with 10 other people and I had no windows in my bedroom. Anyway, it was a really fun time, but it was definitely a time for my early 20s. And unfortunately, I don't have as many video clips of the warehouse space that I thought I did. So apologies, you're just gonna have to fill in the gaps in your imagination. But essentially there was this huge communal area, like living area, kitchen area, all of that. But we also had a shared communal, like creative office studio place. And I had my own desk. So I worked a lot from that desk, but I also worked a lot from my bed. So like my room was where I stored everything and kept everything. I never really kept anything out on the desk because also it was a bit more fluid and other people could like use that desk if they wanted to because I wasn't always there. So I gave the warehouse a 5 out of 10 for productivity. This is a bit of a hard score to give because it's hard to remember how productive I was back then. Also, YouTube videos were about 3 to 4 minutes long back then. So I could have an idea, write the idea, film the video, edit the video, and upload it all in one day. But it was a 3.5 minute long video. But I put my productivity at a 5 because I was honestly all over the place. I was working evenings, weekends, but then also I was like playing in the weekdays because I was living that glorious like freelancer life, just moved to London post-uni. Like I had no schedule, I had no routine other than like making weekly videos. That was something that I did manage to stick to, but there definitely wasn't like as much systems and structure around it as there is now. Does that mean I was less productive? I honestly don't know. But I'm giving it a 5 because I wasn't doing as much then. Like I was producing one 3 to 4 minute video a week, plus all the other stuff that I was doing, which was mostly like collabing, going to events, doing some brand deals, having meetings. Like, what was I doing? What was happening? The bar was so much lower. For posture, I give posture a 2 out of 10 because I do remember working from my bed a lot. I also only had a laptop, and so even like working at a desk with a laptop isn't super great for my back. Granted, I was in my early 20s, but I probably did a lot of damage during that like year and a half that I was there. Not great. Not great. Work-life balance, gave this a 4 out of 10. Like I said, it was all over the place. I was doing a lot of work in the evenings and weekends. There was no work-life balance, but also my work like was my life. It was very different to how I think about work now. I was still not doing YouTube completely full time at that point. I was doing it part-time. So I guess like, yes, during that time I did have 2 days a week where I had a job. So the work-life balance split was very different. Like most of my socializing and all of my friends and all of that stuff that I did was also people who were YouTubers. And so it was like all work. It was like a very all-consuming during that time. So this is like my 2026, I'm a 34-year-old mum, work-life balance standards projecting onto 23-year-old me. But it was all over the place. And also drunk advice was a thing then, which meant just like getting really drunk in the evenings and like filming videos for work. It was a good time. It was a good time. For vibes, I gave the warehouse a 6 because it's pretty cool. It was a very cool environment, but it like wasn't mine, if that makes sense. I was able to obviously decorate my room and like make that feel like a bit like my own and add my own furniture and things. But the vibes of being in that communal space with other people like working and like doing things, cool. Vibes were cool. And so this gives the warehouse a total of, and I hope my maths is correct, 17 out of 40. The next place that I lived in London was a flat share that was like a converted flat from a Victorian Edwardian terrace classic. We were on the top 2 floors, and in this place I lived there for 2 years and I worked from the kitchen table. I was a bit more rigorous at this place in that I didn't really work from my bed. I very much was like, no, the kitchen table is my desk. I film in my bedroom, but I don't want to like do laptop work in my bedroom. Also, this flat and that kitchen table was where I wrote my first book doing it. I wrote that entire thing at that kitchen table. It was a much smaller space than the warehouse, and it was a living room and kitchen in one. So like my kitchen table was like next to the sofa and next to the kitchen. So I gave the flat share kitchen table a 7 for productivity because I was a busybody. I was doing a lot and I was a lot more structured in my work then. This is when I met Dan and he had a normal job, and so I had to actually like get work done during normal hours if I wanted to see him in the evenings and weekends. I wrote my book. Videos were getting longer. This is when I first started working with a video editor as well. This is when I feel like things became a bit more professionalized for me, and I was doing more and bigger projects, and I was able to like get it all done, and also I was working full-time as a creator at this point. I gave it a 3 for posture. It just gets 1 more extra point because I wasn't working from my bed as much, but I was still like laptop at a table situation. Work-life balance, a 6. Things are being improved. Like I said, I had that separation. My kitchen table was my like work domain. My bedroom, other than filming, was free of that kind of work. But it still doesn't score super high just because of how small that space was and how I was just working in my living space, in my kitchen. Luckily, my 2 flatmates worked out of the flat most of the time. And so that was my domain. I think if either of them worked from home on a more regular basis, it would have been quite tricky to like navigate that space. There were occasional times when me and one of the flatmate maybe were working at the kitchen table together, but I don't think the size of that flat was set up for like all 3 of us to all be working from home. That would not have worked well. And then I gave it a 3 for vibes. I love my bedroom in that place. That was where I was like filming, but the actual like kitchen table desk, like that whole flat wasn't very vibey, like couldn't really add my own stamp on it as my like office, as where I worked. But it was like a lovely cozy space that definitely like really felt like home for 2 years. But in terms of like an office and a desk, not vibey at all. So that gives our flat share kitchen table 19 out of 40. So not that much more than the warehouse. Okay, now that brings us to when we moved here, which was almost 8 years ago now. And when we first moved here, the second bedroom, which is now my kids' bedroom, was our home office. We had a home office back in the day. Okay, so this setup was, I had like my filming corner, there was a spare bed that could be pulled out, the classic IKEA day bed. And then we had this ginormous long desk because my husband, Dan, is a massive gamer. So even though he doesn't really work from home, although during the lockdowns he did, he likes having computer, PC, big screens. And this was when I got my first PC as well. My first and only PC. Actually, no, that's a lie. I had my big tower PC and then I had my laptop PC, but I have gone back to Mac now. Sorry, not sorry. So this was like dedicated desk space. I had PC tower. I still had a laptop. I had dual monitors on the desk, external, mouse, keyboard, all of that. This was a real level up for me, guys. So this space gets a 10 out of 10 for productivity. So much was done. I really feel like, I got so stuck into things. This was also where I was working during pretty much all of the lockdowns, and even with Dan next to me, like we both were just able to like work next to each other. This was when I launched a second channel. This is when I launched the Doing It podcast. Like so much happened, like so much growth in terms of my career happened and what I was able to get done when working in that home office. So 10 out of 10. In terms of posture, I've given it a 9 because massive improvements. I had an actual office chair rather than just like a kitchen table chair. I had dual monitors, so I was able to like raise my eyesight. Did I still forget to like get up and walk around and like stretch and whatnot? Yeah, of course I did. But I'm still giving it a 9 for the potential of it all. For work-life balance, I've given this an 8 because I had this dedicated space. Yes, it was still in my home, but it was separate from where I slept. It was separate from where we like cooked and ate and chilled out and watched TV. The only reason why this isn't like a full 10 out of 10 is because it was where we played video games together. And so that was still a bit of like personal life, like fun leisure time that then happened in the office. And it didn't really affect Dan so much, but I think it's because he enjoys gaming much more than I do. But sometimes he would want to play games and I would just be like, I cannot be in that room anymore today. And so I'd have to come and do something in here. So that's why it's getting knocked down, because there wasn't that like complete separation. And then that setup is getting a 9 out of 10 for vibes. I absolutely loved it. It gets knocked down because it wasn't like super aesthetic, I guess. Like if I was building my own home office from scratch now, it would look very different. But also we were basically furnishing that from scratch when we'd just moved in. And so it was all like IKEA furniture. It was very white, like white desk, white walls, white shelves kind of thing. And the only real color in that room was like my bookshelves and the books on them behind the desk. But one of the benefits of all of that white was that room was so bright. And we're gonna come to why that is important to me now, although I didn't really know it at the time. Yeah, it was really lovely and bright. It was very easy to make content in there. Lots of lovely light. Also just like the vibes of the giant desk with like 2 PCs and like all of these massive screens. Like it was a vibe. It was definitely a vibe. Is it a vibe for now? No. Okay. So in total, we've got a real jump here now. That gives the home office a 36 out of 40. That is very respectable, very respectable. Am I nostalgic for it? Do I miss it? Is that why I've ranked it so high? Maybe. We will come on to my current setup at the end. So after I had the home office, I decided that I wanted an external studio space. That 2 points that it got knocked down for work-life balance, I wanted that to be a 10 out of 10. And I wanted more space to do things. I'm now trying to like cast my mind back to remember like why I wanted the studio space. That was too long ago now. I can't even like get into my old brain. But this studio space I was in for 2 years and I absolutely loved it. It was in like a building that has lots of different like offices and studios. It had all of this lovely internal brickwork, white walls, cool, lovely windows with like light coming in. I had my filming corner, desk area. It was where I recorded lots of Doing It podcast as well. We had a lot of stuff going on in that space. I loved it. I also had a great time like decorating it and furnishing it and everything. That was the whole process. So productivity, the studio just gets a 10 out of 10. That's easy. It was so easy to get work done in this space. I like loved going to work and like having an office, having a building that I went to. There was a cafe restaurant downstairs, and so I'd go down and like get my lunch. Like I was able to take those breaks. I think also like the walk and the commute back and forth helped with my productivity, as well as the space itself. Love. Posture is getting a 10 out of 10. And it gets that extra point on the home office because really it was like all the same. I had my PC and my dual monitors there, but I had a standing desk. I had a standing desk, which I did use. Maybe not as much as I could have, but it did get use. I also had a beanbag in there, which weirdly does also up its points for posture because there's something about just like being able to relax in a beanbag when you're like tired and done. Obviously not great for posture, but like good for like, I don't know, relaxing my body. So I said I wanted a 10 out of 10 work-life balance, but I've actually rated the studio as a 9 out of 10. So I was still working in the studio when I got pregnant, when I had a baby, and I think Rowan was like just shy of a year old when I left the studio. So it was interesting how my like needs changed over that time, and actually being able to work from home, I was like, it will allow me to get more done because I just had less time in my day. And so the commute, the travel to the studio was like eating into valuable working time. And so it is interesting, like what even is work-life balance? Is it a complete separation, or is it healthy boundaries? Or is it like having some kind of like blend of it all that actually like works for you? And so in this instance, yes, I had this like complete physical separation, But actually there were instances where that was a real negative. For instance, like when Rowan was a tiny little baby, sometimes I would have podcast recordings for doing it in the evenings because we would be recording with people in different time zones. So I would like be at the studio all day, working there all day, go pick the baby up, come home, wait for Dan to get home from work, and then I would leave again to go back to the studio to do an evening podcast recording and then come back. It was crazy. Hence why I quit sex ed. Hence why I scaled everything back. That's just like a little example of like what my work life was like at that time and how kind of intense it was in those early stages of motherhood. So I still am giving it a 9 out of 10 because there was that glorious time before I became a mum where it was just like, this is so dreamy. But obviously as your needs change, things change. For vibes, I give the studio an 8. I actually wanted to give it like a 9 or a 10 because the vibes were immaculate. I was able to like decorate it. I was like fully in charge of everything. I got like a doing it neon sign. The bookshelves were color coded. I had rugs. I had like gorgeous furniture. One piece of furniture, which is like this turquoise cupboard on wheels, is actually like one of the only thing that I kept from the studio when I moved back home, and that's like my storage work cupboard here. But I just loved it. The vibes were great. However, I had to actually knock it down 2 points because of sharing that floor, sharing that corridor with other offices. It was so loud. A lot of footsteps, a lot of door slamming, and trying to film and record. There were moments when I really like was seething with anger, like when you're trying to get through a video and you're on like take 10 of the same line because you keep on getting interrupted by banging and footsteps and voices, and you have a small baby at home that you need to get back to. And so by the end of being in that studio, I was like so ready to be back at home where I wouldn't be interrupted every time that I wanted to film something. And that's why I have to knock it down 2 points, because it was honestly so infuriating. Maybe that should knock down the productivity, but either way, it's knocked down 2 points overall. And so the studio still gets a very respectable 37 out of 40 because it was very cool. After that, I moved back home. The home office is now the kids' room, and so I returned to the glorious kitchen table. Now this was a bit different. I'd learnt my lesson from the past because I still had an external mouse and keyboard, and I had a little like laptop razor thing to make it higher, but that was really the only difference. So I'm giving my productivity at the kitchen table a 6 out of 10. It wasn't the one. Like, it's nice, this room is really lovely, but I would often find myself on the sofa. I definitely feel like it was a very like unproductive time for me, but also, you know, it was a massive career shift that I was going through at the time as well, and I was taking things slow. But also at this point, I had been spoiled silly by dual monitors, and going back to just a single screen, I found it so frustrating trying to get stuff done without having like my multiple screens. I found it really hard. Posture also gets a 6. It's improved from the other desks because, like I said, I raised it a bit and we got the external stuff going on, but I'm still sat at like a table chair. I often like lay on the sofa to get work done. So it was like improved, I knew better, but did I do better? Only a smidge. Work-life balance gets a 4. This is the lowest it's been since the warehouse. I'm home. I empty the dishwasher. I do the washing and like hang up laundry. I run errands, and like these aren't bad things. There's like an element of like, actually, if I can get these things done now, then that will be really useful for me later when I have the kid at home. I don't know. I think it's more nuanced than, like I've said, like complete separation means like good and complete blend means bad. I don't think that's the case. But I know for me, like living and working in the same space just like wasn't hitting in the same way that it was before. Like I found it a bit frustrating, and putting away all of my gear at the end of the day so that it was like out of sight and then bringing it out, like that's really helpful for work-life balance of like having it all in and out. But I did miss just like having a dedicated space for my stuff. And then vibes, 6 out of 10. Like, this is a really lovely room. It's got gorgeous, massive windows, loads of great light. We'd redecorated this room in a way that we really love. Like, I absolutely love our orange storage unit, the art on the walls, the yellow wall. Like, I'm obsessed with this room. I love it so much. But it's still only a 6 because it's still my kitchen and my living room. And I don't have like a dedicated office where I can put worky things on the wall. For instance, I was being massively sold that like big ass calendar on TikTok. Did anyone else get those ads? And I almost bought a mini version of it, but the shipping fees from the States was like just as much as the actual calendar itself. But where would I put it? I don't have an office. I don't have like a wall somewhere where I could put my big ass calendar. And so that's why vibes are going down. So this kitchen table in that era gets 22 out of 40. So it did score quite low. And that brings us to the current setup. We redid our bedroom last year. And as part of that process, what we did is we got a very bougie, very expensive drop down desk that when it's folded up, it's a lovely piece of art and it looks like beautiful in the room, but you fold it down and it's a desk. We've got like an inbuilt widescreen monitor, and after everyone commenting on the video where we did the bedroom reno being like, that chair ain't it, because we had like a low soft like bedroom chair, and after working at that desk with that, it was not the one, so I got a proper office chair. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So the bedroom drop down desk gets a 9 out of 10 for productivity. I am so productive sat there. I love it. I'm so grateful to have like my big wide screen again. I can have like 2 different like windows up on the screen at once, and then I also have my laptop there. And so this is like where I take calls. So when I've got calls, I've got like 3 screens going on. It's excellent. I love it. Editing as well, like fully widescreen editing. Ooh, it's good. So it gets a 9 out of 10. It's not a 10 out of 10 because I don't know, there's something about being in my bedroom and I get distracted by things at home. It's not quite the 10 out of 10 as the other 2. I'm giving myself an 8 for posture. Thanks everyone again in the comments for calling me out on that terrible chair. We now have a proper desk chair. So we've got the desk chair, we've got the like big wide screen thingy and all of that. However, we'll get to the vibes situation of that room. But because of the vibes in that room, I do often come and still sit on the sofa and work. Or sometimes I like do find myself like on the bed. I was never reluctant to like work at my desk in the studio or work at the desk in the office. But like sometimes I just like look at that desk and I'm like, oh, I don't want to get the desk out. Like I can't be bothered, even though it like takes 2 seconds. I don't know, there's just like some block there, and sometimes I'm just like, I just can't be fucked and I just want to sit on my laptop on the sofa. Work-life balance gets a 7, so it's like good because I'm able to like put it away. Do I always put it away? Am I sometimes like in the evenings if the desk is still down? So it does give like good work-life balance, but it's also still in the bedroom. For the first time in my life, whenever I have like calls or meetings online, I blur my background. I never used to blur my background, but now I'm a background blurrer because it's my bed behind me. So that has been a bit of a mental shift for me, which is why it's a 7. And vibes, also a 7, which is, you know, it's good. It's good. I love my bedroom. Like we redid that. I absolutely adore the green, the wallpaper, the pink and green. Oh, I love it. The dark wood of the bed and the chest of drawers. So like the environment that I'm in, I love. However, I love it as my bedroom. I would not pick those colors and that style for my office, but I didn't quite realize what I was doing at the time, because as soon as we painted 3 of those walls dark green, it is so dark in there. And the spotlights above in the room shining down, anytime I'm doing a call with anyone, the lighting is horrible. Filming in there is horrible. I had to get like a whole separate light situation for like when I'm doing live streams so it would light me from the front rather than like lighting me like literally from above and creating like this huge like shadow on my chest. And so that's why I come in here to work a lot, because just the light. And so that does knock it down a lot. The other thing that knocks it down for vibes is, I don't know if we like put the desk in the right place, if we should have put it on the other wall, because actually the office chair often like knocks and bangs on the chest of drawers behind it, and like it's so insignificant and yet it grates on me. It's so frustrating. But the thing is that if we had put the desk on the other wall, then I would be facing a wall instead of like facing a wall that has like a window next to it, you know? So it's a lovely, lovely room, but it's not the best vibes for an office. And then the other thing is that I don't have like somewhere to put my laptop. So my laptop actually just kind of like lives on the top of my chest of drawers, because after I put everything away, like the laptop just goes there, and that's where my laptop lives. I kind of just don't want my laptop in my bedroom, but my laptop is basically always in my bedroom. So that gives the bedroom drop down desk setup a 31 out of 40. So like still good, we're still in the 30s, but it's not my favorite. It kind of hurts to see these scores a little bit, just because the one that is my current setup, and I know that it's not going to be changed in the near future, isn't my top scorer. It is in fact number 3, which brings us to the final rankings. Okay. In 6th place, we have the warehouse with 17 out of 40. In 5th place, we have the flat share kitchen table with 19 out of 40. Then we have this kitchen table with 22 out of 40. Then we have my beloved, my dear bedroom drop-down desk with 31 out of 40. Then the home office got 36 out of 40, and the studio got 37 out of 40. So super close between the home office and studio. Does that mean I want to work in a studio again? Actually, no. That is not what I want. It's interesting, even though it like scored higher, but only by 1 point. I feel like I now have more of a grasp in terms of like what I want and what I would need out of a home office, that I could do a home office if and when we ever move into a bigger place that has space for one, and it would score higher. I feel like my dream scenario at the moment is either like moving into a house that has a room in the house that could be my dedicated office. Like that is it. It's not even Dan's gaming room. None of that. It's like my office. So I can really like decorate the walls in a way that I want, have like dedicated filming space, dedicated workspace, you know, like stuff on the walls that's like my work and my ideas and like everything that's going on. I don't have to blur the background of my calls because I like what's behind me, or I'm happy to share what's behind me. That's the dream. Or, you know, those like garden rooms that some people have, like they have like a studio at the back of their garden. That also, because then you'd get like a bit more separation and it would be like a separate room. I don't know. Anyway, a girl can dream. A girl can dream. Thank you so much for joining me on this trip down memory lane. I would be curious to hear from you. What's your criteria if you work from home? Like, what's your current work from home desk setup? But what is the criteria of things that are important to you? It doesn't have to be the same ones that I picked. This idea just came to mind, so feel free to absolutely shoot me down if you do not want this. But what if we did a video where you guys submit in pictures of your like home office, home desk, work from home setups, and we share them and I judge them in a nice way? Or do you want me to roast them? Anyway, I hope that you're all doing well. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss the next video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!